Now, what I come to realize is that most business owners are the epitome of this. They get into business because they want to create freedom and flexibility. But how many business owners do you know, Jim, that actually have achieved freedom and flexibility from their business?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. So
Hmm.
that's ground zero. If I can change the trajectory of business owners around the world, I can help them understand the language of money and manufacture financial freedom. We can create a real catalyst for change where we can do some real good.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today I have you a giant coming from you from the great continent of Australia. Jackson Millan, he is the co-founder and CEO of Arius. Jackson, also known as the Wealth Mentor, has spent the last 10 years shaking up the wealth industry, improving what a real wealth coach and strategic advisor should do. Having crafted his own values-based advice model, Jackson has worked to shift control back into the hands of the people when it comes to working toward achieving financial freedom. Jackson is an international best-selling author in 8 countries and has personally coached over 1,000 clients to their goals and objectives, and it aims to change the lives of 1,000 more in the years ahead. And of those 1,000 clients that he's helped, over 1,000 clients, they have collectively earned over 2.5 or 1.2 billion dollars. I was gonna 10x you there, Jackson.
I love
And
that.
they've but 1.2 is still a lot of money. So kudos on that one. And they've helped over 414 business owners so far. So Jackson, welcome to the show. I hope I didn't miss anything on that.
No, that's perfect, mate. I'm looking forward to having a chat.
Okay, great. And the thing that I always like, because I believe that storytelling is the best form of communication. So the thing that I always get interested in is why you chose the financial arena, and then also why you chose to help the little guys, the small businesses.
Yeah. So my story kind of begins with my parents. Like most people say, Jackson, you don't look like a typical finance guy. You don't have the three-piece suit and the tie, and you look a little bit like a mixture of a hipster and a hobo. And the truth is, Jim, that I'm not a typical finance guy. My parents were business owners. My mum was a hairdresser. She tried very hard to scale a salon and never really had much success. My old man was a bit of a dreamer. He tried his hand at every business that you could possibly imagine, but just never really stuck to anything long enough to see things through. But one of the things they always taught me is they said, Jackson, if you want to be successful in life, you need to work hard for it. And this is coming from people that work 16-hour days for as long as I could possibly remember. And I realized very early on that something was missing. Something that they were telling me about that was wrong. It wasn't working, because if what they told me was true, they would have been squillionaires. But the reality was they weren't. They worked extremely hard for every single dollar that they earned. So I realized that I needed to be a catalyst for change. And what I discovered very early on is that they didn't understand the language of money. They didn't know how to make money work for them as opposed to them working for it. And ultimately, for their entire working lives, they were slaves to money. So I decided at the age of 19 that I was going to go down the path of becoming a financial advisor. I looked very young at that time. I probably looked about 12. I was baby faced, and I knocked doors, and I basically wouldn't take no for an answer until somebody gave me a job as a trainee financial advisor. And I rocked up to my first day at this place called the Financial Advice Center, and it looked like a scene out of The Wolf of Wall Street. Everything except the midget throwing gym. It was crazy. The environment was toxic. There was about 400 people on this floor in the city, all on the phones, screaming, carrying on. When they made sales, they'd ring bells and clap and celebrate. And what I realized is that there was these people here that were selling crappy commission-based products to people like my parents who didn't need them. And I knew something was wrong, and I thought I'd made a massive mistake. But what I've come to realize is that most of the financial services industry is not set up to help people achieve financial freedom. It is set up to take money from people like my parents and to put it in the hands of people like those advisors so they can drive the Porsches, they can live in the beachside mansions, they can travel at the pointy end of the plane. So I binned the term financial advisor and I created the term wealth coach, because I wanted to educate people like my parents around the language of money so they can make better decisions for themselves and actually have a chance at creating true financial freedom for themselves and their families. Now, what I come to realize is that most business owners are the epitome of this. They get into business because they want to create freedom and flexibility. But how many business owners do you know, Jim, that actually have achieved freedom and flexibility from their business?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. So
Hmm.
that's ground zero. If I can change the trajectory of business owners around the world, I can help them understand the language of money and manufacture financial freedom. We can create a real catalyst for change where we can do some real good.
Awesome. Awesome. I like that. And I think it helps to know people's why for sure, why they get
Yeah.
into that. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and we talk a lot about on this show about changing your mindset towards money,
Yeah.
because you just like you have to go from take your trainer hat off and put on your own business owner hat, and that comes with skill set. But it also, you have to shift your mindset when it comes to money, like thinking about marketing budget, because, when I first got into the training business or open my own business, I thought I spend money, I get something. And marketing, you spend all of this money and it goes out there and you don't know if it's coming back. I mean, there's metrics that you can check, but
Yeah.
I didn't understand like marketing budget, marketing spend, lifetime value of a client, all of those things. So I had to change the way I thought about money. So what would you tell those same owners when it comes to wealth management, investment, like changing their mindset around money to get it to work for them?
Yeah, this is a really great question, Jim. And I talk about this a lot because when we get into business, the risk that we run is that the business becomes the destination. It becomes the be all and end all of our existence. Like even many people refer to their business as their baby. But
Mhm.
like think about it, right? Like a baby is reliant on you. A baby, aside from giving you the warm and fuzzies and feeling good and obviously the qualitative aspects of raising a family, it doesn't really provide you with any kind of tangible quantitative results. And we get into business to be able to reap the rewards of our work. Our business is a vehicle. It is the best vehicle. If you look at any rich list in the world, you'll quickly see that you are among an elite group of individuals who are very, very wealthy, and they're all business owners and entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So the difference between you and them is that they use their business as a vehicle for wealth creation, and your business is reliant on you, and you ultimately created a job for yourself. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a clear path for what financial freedom actually means outside of our business. So what are you actually trying to achieve? Like how much income do you need to live the lifestyle you want? What's the car you want to drive? What's the house you want to live in? What is the holidays that you want to go on? What school do you want to send your kids to? And let's work out how much income we need to earn to create that lifestyle. And then let's reverse engineer that backwards. So let's say, for example, you want to earn 100 grand a year personally. What would your business need to do to allow you to earn 100 grand? And then we can work out the clients we need. Then we can work
Mhm.
out the sales calls we need to do. Then we can work out the leads that we require. Because here's the thing, Jim, the difference between a dream and a goal is a plan. And the
Mhm.
easiest way to plan is to start with the end in mind and then work our way backwards.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. To always start with an end in mind, because a lot of people, it's kind of like the here in America anyway, the Iraq War. We're gonna go in there, we're gonna show them, and then we have no exit strategy, so it becomes a quagmire. But my question for you is that a lot of like when you say there, a lot of trainers create jobs for themselves where they're trading their time for money and they're one person show and they're doing well, but I don't think it's creating the lifestyle that they want, especially when it comes to, spending time with friends, starting a family, all of those, taking vacations, taking your kids to school. They don't have that in mind. So, and they're like this in their business. So, what's the first step for them to kind of draw back a little bit and get a wider perspective, almost like a drone view of their business? Where do they start with that? And then where do they start with their money working for them?
Yeah, this is really important. Like so many businesses, as you said, like most people, they get into business because they see an opportunity. Like they're a great trainer. They know that they can get phenomenal results. They can see that the people that they're working for are making more money than them. They're taking a clip on the ticket. And they go, okay, well, maybe it's better for me to go out and do this for myself. Like I can call the shots. I can be the master of my own destiny. I can make this work for me. And they jump into their business and they often end up earning less money, working more with all the risks and responsibility that comes with running a business. Now,
sometimes paying their employees more than they're taking.
exactly. And this is not what
Yeah.
we got into business for. And we've
Hmm.
got to realize that business and finance are one and the same thing. In order for you to be successful in business, you need to understand the language of money. And the first thing you need to understand is cash flow control. So there was a book that was written that was called The Richest Man in Babylon. And one of the first principles that was taught in The Richest Man in Babylon is pay yourself first. It was said out of every dollar that you earn, how much of that dollar is yours to keep? How much goes to the tax man? How much goes to the grocer? How much goes to your employees? And then at the end, how much do you keep? And this is typically how most people run their business. They have money come in, they then pay all of their bills, and then what's left, they pay themselves. And it's typically crumbs.
Right.
We need to presuppose that you can pay yourself first, and we need to run our business on what is left. And this comes down to a behavioral principle called Parkinson's law.
Mm-hmm.
Parkinson's law basically states that as a human being, we use the means we have available. So a great example I like to use is a tube of toothpaste. When you've got a brand new tube of toothpaste, how do you use it? Pretty
Yeah.
liberally, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what about when you get to the end of the tube of toothpaste? How does your
Oh,
behavior change?
yeah. You become pretty stringent.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
don't want to go down to the supermarket and buy some more, right?
Uh-huh.
So you do whatever you can to get that last little drop out. We need to run our business like it's the end of the tube of toothpaste. And this comes down to having cash flow control. So this is step number one. The next one is understanding your KPIs. Because typically what most trainers get into the habit of doing is that they pull one lever, one metric in their business, more clients. If I
Mm-hmm.
only get more clients, if I get 5 more clients or 10 more clients, I'm going to be better off. Well, what else can we do to grow our business? And the number one underutilized lever by trainers around the world is that they don't charge what they're really worth.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, think about
I
it. Like,
agree with that.
what would happen if you increased your price by 10% or 20%? Do you really think you'd get any pushback?
No. Well, a little, but not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
Not
And
much.
usually the pushback or you get are from clients that may not be the best clients anyway.
Exactly. They're the clients that
Mhm.
see you as a commodity. They want to spend the least amount and they're going to tax you of the most energy and they're going to take the most of
Mhm.
your time. It's those
Absolutely.
clients who pay and they pay attention. So charge what you're worth.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people undercharge themselves for various reasons. So that's great advice. All right, so that's good stuff. So that's where a good starting point for somebody who's kind of almost feels trapped, where their business feels like a ball and chain around their ankle, to try to kind of separate themselves from the business and have the business start working for them. So the one area that talked about touching on was maximizing your income or maximizing your cash flow. So what are some of the ways that people can do that to create that financial freedom for themselves?
Yeah. So this is about understanding how do you make the most of your time. Now, at the end of the day, Jim, there's two tradable commodities in this world. There's time and there's money. And most people are trading their time for money. And whilst we're doing this, the aim of the game is to maximize that effective hourly rate that we're making for every single hour that we're investing into our business. But the problem is that most business owners and particularly fitness trainers haven't actually taken the time to work out what their real effective hourly rate is. I know how much they charge per session, but
Mm-hmm.
your per session rate doesn't really give you a real good indication of how much you're making every single hour you're working. So we work out a simple sum here. We work out, firstly, how much did you make over the course of a year? So maybe if you're only new in business, work out what your average monthly is and then times that by 12. Then what we need to do is we need to work out how many hours do you work a week on average in your business? And then how many weeks a year on average do you work? And then we times that weekly by the total number of weeks that you work per year. So let's say for argument's sake that you work 40 hours a week and you work 50 weeks a year. Your clients don't want to see you over the couple of weeks before Christmas and New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
That is 2,000 hours a year. And let's assume that you make $60,000 a year as a trainer. That means that your effective hourly rate is $30. And most people go,
Yeah.
wow, Oh, I thought I was worth more. I'm charging $150 per session. I'm charging $100 a session. So it's a slap in the face. But what this now does is this gives us a measure of success. The next thing we need to do is we need to do what's called a low value task matrix. So we draw a vertical axis. At the top of the vertical axis, we have high value. And at the bottom, we have low value. And then on the horizontal axis, we have love on the right, and we've got loathe on the left. And what I want you to do is to do a time audit. Look back on your last couple of weeks and work out what you did with your time and put it into high value love, high value loathe, low value love, and low value loathe. And work out how many hours a week on average are you spending in each of those 4 quadrants. And the aim of the game is, how do we get rid of the crappy stuff, the low value tasks that you really hate doing? The high value loathe, how do we outsource that to somebody for less than $30 an hour in that example? So for less than your effective hourly rate. And if you win back that time and you invested that in your zone of genius, how much more money could you make?
I like that. I like that. And what do you call that again?
It's called the low value task matrix.
Okay. I like that. Okay. And then
It's a game
how
changer.
to, yeah, I would say, because, what I find is that when you go from being a trainer to a business owner, most people do it because they love training and they really enjoy being on the floor. But when you're the owner, man, you don't spend a lot of time training on the floor. You spend in your office, running the back of the house. Okay.
Exactly.
So how do people transition into money? They're making their money work for them.
Yeah. So once we understand these numbers, because the aim of the game firstly is that we need to increase what we call our top line revenue. So we need to increase how much we're making each month and take that to where we can, to a level where we're comfortable with the number of hours that we're trading for that money. So for many trainers, it's hitting that kind of golden $10,000 a month, right? Like if I get the $10,000 a month, I'm doing really good. So let's work out, how do we get from where you are to hitting that? And that's understanding what's the best model for us to do that. The next thing is, once we hit that top line revenue goal, we need to have a system, a cash flow management system that allows us to hold on to that money. We don't want it to slip through our fingers because of Parkinson's law, right? We want to treat the business like it's the end of the tube of toothpaste. And then we need to have a mechanism that allows us to turn that business profit and turn it into personal wealth. Because it's not the money you earn that matters, it's the money that you keep. And this is where many people are challenged. We have that cash flow creep where they're making good money, so then their lifestyle increases. They go from drinking a $10 bottle of wine to a $30 bottle of wine. They go from driving a Toyota to driving a Lexus. They go from living in a 1-bedroom apartment to living in a nice house in a good suburb. But if we increase our lifestyle proportionately with our income increase, we're not going to have anything more to show for it.
Right.
So we need to pay ourselves first there too. And we need to have a system that allows us to invest in the 2 asset classes that have been proven to work throughout all periods of history. We need to buy good quality blue chip property in highly desirable areas where people want to live, and they're going to want to live for a very long time. And we need to systematically put money into the share market without having to stock pick, because many of these wealth gurus tell you, Jim, you need to invest in this stock and that stock, and you need to know how to understand how to invest in the stock market. Bullshit. There is one mechanism that you can use where you never have to pick a stock for the rest of your life. And you have the ability to invest in what's called an index fund that allows you to not bet on a particular stock, but to bet on an entire market. For example, you can invest in an index fund that gives you exposure to the entire S&P 500, the top 500 companies in the US. And what your bet is that those 500 companies are going to do better next year and in the next 10 years than they are today, which is, I think, a pretty safe bet, right?
Right.
And all we need to do is just set up a strategy, use Robinhood or use these other apps that are available, like Acorns and whatnot, that allows us to systematically start. And we can start very small. $50 a month, break the ice, start getting money into the market, start getting excited, and then we ramp it up over time.
Nice. So those are great places to start. So where would one go? Where would you start with that? I mean, how do you find somebody to help you with that?
Here's a great thing, Jim. I believe that people should do this for themselves, because the typical, what we've been conditioned to do over the course of decades is that money and finance is complicated. You need to have sexy and sophisticated degrees at Ivy League schools in order to understand this stuff. And then you have to go and pay a money manager or a fiduciary, sometimes thousands, if not tens and thousands of dollars a year to manage your money for you. Once again, I call bullshit. You should play an active role in the most important thing in your life. It is the key decision that is going to dictate the trajectory of the course of the rest of your life. And you're just going to outsource that to some guy or girl in a suit that you've met once? No. Get educated. It is simple, guys. All of these complexities and these things that the industry has told you is true is false. You can read a couple of really great books, one being Unshakable by Tony Robbins, another one by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And of course, I've got to do a shameless plug here, Jim. You can read my book, Enjoy the Journey, Creating Wealth and Living the Life That You Desire. And all of these books will teach you how to do this for yourself.
Nice. I like that, because here's the other thing. I read Tony Robbins' book, and, where he talks about, like commissions and fees, like, are just the biggest scam, legal scam pretty much going right now. And they can rob you of any, interest or compound interest or, positive investment that you take if you're not careful, if you don't keep an eye on those fees and commissions. So I agree with that, in keeping it simple and keeping it consistent, like you said, setting up where it's automatic, where you don't think about it, because otherwise it becomes like a watch pot, right?
Exactly, 100%. It never boils. So we want to make sure that we can have that system, and we call it an investment operating system that allows us to systematically turn that business profit into wealth, because your time as a business owner is best spent in your business. It's not spent picking stocks and trying to find the next best investment that's going to go up by 20%. We've proven across our client base, we've helped them build, actually now as of today's date, $1.4 billion in combined wealth, that we only need to get about an 8% year-on-year return, assuming that we've got the ability to put money into the market systematically over a period of time. And most of our clients manufacture financial freedom in 10 years or less.
Yeah. So what do you say to like a 20-some odd trainer who is not thinking about that, not worried about investing, thinking they have plenty of time? What do you tell someone like that?
Look, it was famously said by Bill Gates. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. And wealth creation is a compounding game. There are 3 levers that we have to manufacture financial freedom. There is the amount that you can afford to contribute to financial freedom. So how do we turn your business profit into wealth of it actually getting money into the market? 2 is how much risk are you prepared to take? So depending on what you invest in, we have a correlation between risk versus return. So if we've got money sitting in the bank in cash, it's going to make us probably 0. But if it's in the stock market, on average, the S&P 500 has done about 10%. But it's volatile, right? So we've got to be prepared to ride that wave. So we've got to find a risk tolerance, a risk versus reward that's comfortable for you. And thirdly, how long are you prepared to wait? And the biggest risk that we have here is that you don't do anything now. You're a 20-something-year-old trainer. You go, I'm going to deal with that next year. I'm going to deal with that in 10 years' time. I'm going to deal with that when I start going gray. And all we've done is we've now started to take the time lever out of the equation, meaning that you need to take more risk and you're going to need to contribute more money. So the sooner you start, the easier it's going to be. And it doesn't need to be a huge contribution.
Yeah. Can you give the listeners like an example of like a case study, if you will?
Yeah. So what I'm actually going to do, Jim, is for your for the notes on this podcast, I'm going to give you guys a calculator. And it's basically going to be the 3 levers calculator. Now, the first thing that I want you guys to do that are listening to this is I want you to work out what we call your F3 figure. And your F3 figure is your financial freedom figure. It's how much wealth that you need to amass that would allow you to have the passive income that you desire, to have complete freedom around how you spend your time. You can work because you want to, not because you need to. So what you firstly need to work out is how much income would you need to have coming in each and every single year in order for you to live the lifestyle that you want. So think about, live the lifestyle you want, travel the way you want, send your kids to the school you want, have the experiences that you want. Let's call it $200,000 a year. Let's pull a number out, okay? I want you to take that annual figure And the F3 formula is that annual figure divided by 5 and times by 100. So annual figure divided by 5 times by 100. The outcome of that sum is the net wealth that you need to create in order to achieve financial freedom. So in that scenario, if we need 200,000 a year, we would need $4 million in net wealth. And most people, when they do this, they have a sharp inhaler there. Oh crap, that's a big number. So the calculator that I'm going to give you guys is that we can plug in that number and then we can work out how do we adjust those other 3 levers. How much risk are we going to take? How much can we deposit? And then how long are we prepared to wait?
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And that will be in the show notes. Go to trainerjim.net, click on this episode of the podcast, and you can get your calculator, see how much money that you have to save. And chances are it's going to be more than what you have under your mattress right now. Good chance of that. So, and then the other thing that the phrase that you mentioned that had me curious is the invisible income ceiling. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I find this happens a lot. It doesn't matter what industry, but particularly in the fitness space, is that people hit this invisible income ceiling, that they've got used to a particular way of doing business. So maybe their business model is face-to-face consults. They have a certain hourly rate. They know that they can only do so many sessions each and every single week before they start burning out. And ultimately they hit this threshold and they can't find themselves pushing past it. They can't work out how do they push through that invisible income ceiling. And what you might find is when you do that F3 calculator and you work out the 3 levers for you, you might go, wow, how am I ever going to make that amount of money to be able to contribute to allow me to achieve that goal? And that's a prime example of an income ceiling. There is a gap between the income that you're earning right now and the income that you need to earn in order to achieve the lifestyle that you want. But this is like a harsh reality, but it's an important reality because we now know what we need to do to bridge that gap. So what we need to do is we need to start reviewing the way that we implement our business model. How do we transition from trading time for money to trading value for money? How do we go from doing, say, one-on-one sessions to actually bolstering value, online programming, pre-recorded training, accountability sessions, group training? There are all of these different business models that at the end of the day, it all comes down to dollars and cents. Mm-hmm. What makes the most financial sense to take us from where we are to where we want to go that will allow us to manufacture financial freedom using our business? Because the harsh reality is the fitness industry has been vastly impacted through COVID. Mm-hmm. Fitness trainers have had to pivot, many of which are earning less than what they've earned before, but there is a tremendous opportunity. And all it requires you to do is to understand your numbers and then work out how do you manipulate those numbers to be able to create the income that you want and push through those invisible ceilings.
Yeah. Now, how much do you think that invisible ceiling is a result of mindset?
Majority of cases, Jim, I reckon 8 out of 10 cases, it's mindset related. Because what this ends up becoming is that, as the famous saying is, that he who said he can and he who said he can't are both right. Mm-hmm. It ends up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't coach any more clients. I can't charge more for my service. I can't compete with the bricks and mortar gym down the road. I can't go online. I can't work with 50 clients at a time using a group model. And if you have that mindset that you can't, then you're going to prove yourself right. Mm-hmm. So we need to shift that mindset. And this is the reason why this exercise is so important, of knowing these numbers. Because if we had the choice between pivoting our business model, changing the way that we fundamentally do things and how we make money in our business, and as a direct result, we presuppose that you can achieve all of the goals, dreams, and aspirations that you and your family desire, which one's more important to you? The goals, dreams, and aspirations, or having a little bit of discomfort for a period of time? I know what I'd do, and I've done this personally, Jim. Like 12 months ago, I've got a business now that we've got about 600 clients around the world, and we've got a team of 27. And I wasn't taking my own advice for a period of time now. I was overworking, and particularly through COVID, I was just serving my clients, doing everything I could to help people achieve their goals. But I go, wow, something's got to give. This is not really the lifestyle that I want to live. I want to have this great business, but I also want to have an amazing lifestyle too. So I made a decision. I said, okay, in 12 months' time, I'm going to set my business up in a position that will afford me the opportunity to get a 4-wheel drive, jump in a car with my girlfriend and our 2 dogs and spend a year traveling Australia, showing business owners around the country and also around the world how to create a true lifestyle business. And just by setting that intention, I get in that truck in 2 weeks' time and I've brought this dream to life.
Awesome. That's
Just
great.
He who said he can and he who said he can't are both right.
Is right. Yeah. So mindset plays a huge role in that for sure.
Massive.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. This has been great. So where can people get in touch with you, find out more information, get your book, listen to your podcast? Your book is called Enjoy the Journey, as well as the podcast is called Enjoy the Journey. I'm looking forward to being on there in the near future. So listeners of this show can keep an eye out for that. So where can people get more information from you?
Yeah, so guys, a good idea in theory remains exactly that, just a good idea. It's about what you implement that counts. So I'm going to give you guys some amazing resources as a result of this podcast in the show notes. So we've got a Facebook group that's called 6 and 7 Figure CEOs, Turning Business Profit into Wealth. And as a result of joining that group, you'll get actually my first 2 books, and third one's with the editor at the moment coming out. But you'll get access to both of my books that are already released that are going to help you implement some of the stuff we're talking about. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to give you a 40-point business performance scorecard. And what we've worked out is, working with thousands of clients, what are the top 40 things that you need to be doing in your business to set yourself up for financial freedom? And that will help you evaluate where you're doing. The harsh reality is that the average score for most people is 18 out of 40, meaning that majority of businesses are under par. They're under average. So at least we can work out that number and then work out how we can charge forwards. And of course, feel free to search for our podcast on Spotify, or feel free to add me on social media. I'm always producing content, and hopefully it's high value, just to help you take that fear out of your numbers and then start working towards financial freedom.
Great. Thank you very much, Jackson. So I'm curious, when you talked about, that 40-point checklist, and most people scored 18, what is some of the most common things you see that of under par performing businesses?
Yeah. One is they don't have a recurring revenue model, so they're only as good as their next appointment. 2, they don't have a cash flow control system that allows them to actually have a good profit in their business, but also save for things like tax and their ongoing commitments. And 3, they haven't actually got a wealth plan that allows them to actually manufacture financial freedom using their business. And we group this 40-point checklist into five areas. So you'll actually be able to see exactly what area you're lacking the most and where you can push the needle forwards. What we found is people who score 18, now that they know the things that they've answered no to, they can actually add at least 10 points to their score within 30 days or less, just because they know what they need to work on.
Gotcha. They got a playbook, so to speak.
Exactly.
Oh, good. All right. Well, this has been great, but I always like to end with my favorite part of the show, because I think we get some of the best content, because we get the peek behind the curtain that is Jackson. So my first question is, what has been your most successful failure? And by that, I mean, at the time, it seemed like a devastating loss that you weren't going to be able to recover from, but you were able to take life lessons from it that propelled you to greater success down the road.
Yeah, it was actually my first business, Jim. And my father, when he was first diagnosed with terminal cancer, he was the primary breadwinner of our household. He had his wife was a homemaker. He had a young school-age daughter at the time. I was out of home. He didn't have the appropriate safety nets in place, and because his income come to a grinding halt, I inherited the responsibility of feeding 4 mouths, including myself. I had to pay the household mortgage. I had to basically make ends meet, and at the time, I didn't have enough income. So my brilliant idea was to start my first business, which was actually a men's fashion business. It was an e-commerce business. It was like the most difficult thing that I possibly could have done at the time, but it was my idea of a miraculous idea of bridging the gap. And we had some early success. We had some great features in GQ and had many notable people wearing our brand. We'd started to scale the business, but the business was a cash-eating monster, and I'd fallen into the same trap that I'd been educating my clients to avoid for many years. And the true thing about this, Jim, was that I wasn't passionate about the business. It was a means to an end for me. It was only a way of making ends meet and making income. And I quickly realized, which ultimately became my number one non-negotiable, is that don't pursue anything that your heart doesn't desire. If your heart's not in it, it's never going to work for you. So after kicking the tin down the road for many years, I decided to wind up the business. I was multi-6 figures in bad debt. I was going into a spiraling out of control, and I had a choice. I could either throw my hands up and admit defeat and fail my family and fail myself, or I could earn my way out of that situation, which is a pretty dark and deep hole. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
I earned my way out of it. I wound up the business. I cleared the bad juju, and I donated all of my stock to charity. And I focused on what I did best. I focused on one thing and becoming the best in the world at it. And I got myself out of bad debt. I clawed my way back, and now I've got a multi seven-figure business and a team of 27, 600 clients around the world, and things are looking pretty good. So it's about understanding your shortfalls and then moving your way past them.
Yeah, sometimes those dark times produce the purest gold.
100%.
Yeah. So my next question is, since you've been in the fitness industry, what has been the biggest surprise that you've had to deal with that you didn't see coming? COVID is exempt.
Yeah, we work with a lot of fitness trainers, bricks and mortar gyms, online trainers, coaches. And the biggest realization that we've had is that many fitness people in the industry, they love to serve. They're doing it because they love to see people get amazing results.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that often gets in the way of that is that they often don't feel deserving of the income that they receive.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing is that if you're not happy with the outcomes that are presenting themselves in your life and your business, you need to look within and you need to work on yourself. If you can, as a human being, and particularly as being in the fitness space, you are like a tree. You are either growing and thriving or you are rotting and dying. You need to choose one. So work on yourself and the results will follow.
I agree 100%. And I've been guilty of this. They become martyrs,
Yeah.
they tell their head trainer, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. Meanwhile, they can't pay their rent, and they tell the client, oh, you know what, we're just take that, we're not going to charge you for it. If you really need it, it's going to help you out, all of these things. And they become that martyr syndrome. And then I had Frank Nash on the show, and we were talking about that. And he said, yeah, and Frank Nash is from Boston, and he's a Boston guy, great guy. But, somebody said, oh, Frank, you're just in it for the money. He's like, so,
Yeah.
and, it's a business. I'm here
You
to make
deserve it.
money. There shouldn't be any shame attached to that. I agree. And then my last question, I'm big on personal development, like you just mentioned. And I think that's so important if you want to grow in your business and grow in your life. So where do you go for your personal and professional development?
Yeah, the best investments that I've ever made in my life have been in personal development. And I'm a big believer in mentorship. I spend multi six figures a year on mentorship because I see it as an investment. I know that if I spend $1, I'm going to get $4 back. So if I spend 100,000, I know I'm going to get 400,000 back. So my objective is to spend more on personal development this year than I spent last year. So understand, and the most important part is don't chase shiny objects. Don't just chase this program and that course and this just because everyone else is doing it. The best thing that you can do is get a deep understanding of what it is that you really need that's going to help you push the needle forwards in your life. And the question that I always ask myself when I'm looking to invest in a mentor is, will it make my boat go faster? And if the answer is yes, I do it. And if the answer is no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah, I like that. And I've heard that advice a lot. I've heard it enough to realize that it definitely works. Almost every guest on this show said the same thing. So my follow-up question is then, what guides your decision on what mentor you're going to try to get?
Yeah. I break this into three quadrants, three components. We've got, does it increase my profit? Does it create more free time? Or does it allow me to build more personal wealth? And if it doesn't fit into one of those three, then I don't do it. Because ultimately in my life, those are the key measures of success for me. And for the vast majority of my clients, those are the things that are going to push the needle forwards. So work out which of those three areas do you need to focus the most, and then find the right mentor for that.
Gotcha. All right, great. Well, Jackson, this has been awesome, man. I noticed it's early morning for you, so have some coffee on me, and it's late night. It's a late night for me, and I got my 4-year-old in the locked away somewhere where you can't disturb the podcast. But this has been great. Have a great day, and I'd love to reserve the right to have you back on the show sometime to talk about this, because I think this is an issue that a lot of trainers can benefit from, learning a little bit more, changing their mindset on money, about money, how it can work for them instead of the other way around. So I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Jackson.
It's been a pleasure, mate. I'll chat to you soon.